Hello, my name is Sarah Gillogly, and my paper for English 493 Senior Seminar Social Justice is about the reluctant fundamentalist. My thesis states that within Moshe Hamed's The Reluctant Fundamentalist, Changa struggles to create an identity for himself as he faces his status as both an immigrant and an image of post-colonial society when he is forced to choose between America and Pakistan as part of his global identity in the wake of 9/11, suggesting that one's identity can be reconstructed when recognizing their beliefs. My thesis is important because it identifies Changa's struggle with his global identity, which is supplemental to his overall identity as a whole. And this further suggests that the reluctant fundamentalist provides commentary on the expanding modern idea of identity and how our personal beliefs really come from our role in society and how that reinforces further our identities. So for situating my argument within the debate, I began by talking about how several critics discuss how Chengiz's identity is initially unformed through his life in his home country, his ambition to succeed in his career, and his romantic interest in Erica. They explain that Chengiz has invested so much in these things to attempt to supplement his own identity. All three authors really examine Chengiz's initial identity and really why it is being deconstructed. And these are really the three reasons: is his life at home, his ambition, and his love for Erica. Chengiz functions as an image of post-colonialism as Pakistan was colonized by England. Through this image of himself, Chengiz is accepted into the American business culture more easily than another immigrant would be. Chengiz's status as an immigrant is really seen as what helps him to get his job, while his post-colonial demeanor and his politeness and the way he behaves towards people really acclimates him to the white man's corporate world, because he's really he behaves like a white man, but he's a person of color. And that really fits what they're looking for as far as diversity checks. Chengiz is his internal conflict between loyalty in America, loyalty towards America and Pakistan, challenges his own global identity until he grows a beard like his countrymen. It also functions as a metaphor for the actual global scale conflict. So many critics interpret that the conflict between America and Pakistan that happens inside Chengiz himself really reflects the struggle that the nations feel in general. But for Chengiz personally, he's leaning more towards the Pakistani side of this struggle because it's where he's from, it's where his family is, it's where everything he cares about is. And what that reflects for the global struggle is that Pakistan is the nation that needs help. And while America is indifferent, he's really unable to identify with that side of the situation. Chengiz then reconstructs his identity through the difficult decisions he makes in the wake of 9/11. In choosing Pakistan over America, Chengiz begins the reconstruction of his identity. He recognizes the imagery of the color of his skin, his position as a janissary, and his origins to reconstruct his identity. So this is Chengiz's self-awareness of his own identity. And through that and him choosing to become shameless about his Pakistani heritage, he reconstructs his identity because he's solidifying who he identifies with and where he comes from. And he does this for his identity on a personal scale and a global scale when he identifies with Pakistan. And my paper just further functions to examine the full cycle that Chengiz's identity goes through during the process of the novel. And the plot that the reluctant fundamentalist brings really helps his identity change. And it really shows that his core beliefs are really what is supplemental to his own identity. So I began my paper with talking about the deconstruction of Chengiz's identity. Chengiz's life back in Pakistan also places him on the margins of society. His family lived in the illusion of wealth in an old ancestral home in a prestigious neighborhood, but they are not rich. His parents are middle class, and their monetary worth is less than the societal status they uphold. Khan here is identifying that Chengiz's family used to have wealth, and now it's become the illusion of wealth in an old ancestral home because they have to continue to uphold this image that they're rich so that they continue to belong to the Pakistani elite society. And that causes a destabilization of Chengiz's own identity in the first place because they are constantly putting on a show of who they actually are. At the heart of Erica's value to envision Chengiz as a lover or partner is her inability to imagine herself as a person engaged with the world. Hartnell's allegorical reading of America mirrors the isolating nature of the American response to 9/11. The white American woman, Erica, as suggested by Hartnell, can retreat from the world after 9/11. So Singh is examining Erica's behavior after 9/11 and how she really retreats from the world and doesn't connect with anyone. And this causes Chengiz a lot of distress because of how much he cares for her, how much he loves her. So it eventually affects him in the same way to where he doesn't really connect with anything in his life, to the point where he suggests for her to pretend that he is her old lover just so that she can be happy. And in this way, he really has he's really undergone his own identity in order to please someone else. And this is really the complete deconstruction of his identity. Chengiz furthers an image of post-colonialism. The reluctant fundamentalist tells the story of Chengiz's realization not only that he is the tolerated neighbor, but also that his sense of Americanness is the tolerated neighbor in him. So Saval is pointing out the concept of the tolerated neighbor, and that's the position that Chengiz upholds within the novel. Because when he comes to America, this is really the image that he upholds, because he is Pakistan. And Pakistan itself was previously colonized by Europe, which causes him to have that post-colonial demeanor towards white men. And this is, again, that moment we see where he is really belonging to corporate America because he really fits the image of a white man while being a person of color. He is seemingly at the very heart of the multinational web of relations. He even succumbs to a post-political language in thinking of himself not as a Pakistani in the US, but as first and foremost an Underwood Sampson trainee. At this moment in the novel, Chengiz has accepted his role as the untolerated neighbor, and he succumbs to post-political language to the point where he forgets his identity further and views himself as an object of his employer. So he's already seen himself as an object of Erica's happiness, and now he sees himself as an object of his employer. So he's further deconstructing his own identity through identifying that he cares about Erica and through his creation of himself as an Underwood Sampson trainee. He has completely dissolved his identity at this point in multiple ways. We move on to the global identity section, which is where Chengiz begins to identify that there is an issue with his identity, and he begins to fix it. So one challenge of cultivating a sense of global identity is the way rigid understandings of difference tend to set one identity against another. So what Darda is saying is that Chengiz finds it difficult to be shameless about his identity as a Pakistani person because of 9/11, because of what happened and everything that's happened in the after effect of it, and how India is setting up to attack Pakistan, and America is indifferent and they're not doing anything about it. And so Chengiz finds that he has to choose between the indifference of America or caring about Pakistan and standing up for his homeland, his country. and he just finds it really difficult to have to decide, but he eventually does. The story of how the narratee responds to the narrator's story thus takes the form of a binational allegory, personifying in America confronted with an opportunity to grasp for the first time the actual nature of its relationship in Pakistan. So Medavoy is explaining how Changez's internal conflict, again, is reflecting the actual larger conflict between American and Pakistan society, and how that whole concept really affects Changez's overall global identity when he decides to return to his origins and he grows the beard of his countrymen. That really solidifies his identity as a Pakistani man. And it reflects the global crisis in showing that Pakistan is who needs the help. Pakistan is the nation who is in trouble right now. And when he does this is his reconstruction of his global identity. So moving from global identity, we continue to the complete reconstruction of Changez's identity. Critical analyses of relations between Hamid's narrator and the character Juan Bautista have focused on the part played by the latter in Changez's American/Pakistani identity crisis. It is Juan Bautista, after all, who introduces Changez to the concept of the Janissary. So the concept of the Janissary were children, Christian children, who were kidnapped and brought to the Ottoman Empire and trained as bodyguards for the Ottoman Empire. And then they fought against Christian nations without knowing that they were fighting against their own blood. And so Juan Bautista is the man who identifies this symbol, this object, the Janissary, to Changez, and he explains that the Janissary is basically synonymous to Changez's own situation, because he's basically posing as an American, which is detrimental to his Pakistani society and relations, when he knows that that's the right thing to do. So in identifying this relationship, Changez is then influenced to grow his beard and to solidify his identity. For him, the basic quest of identity is far more powerful than his love for America or his American dream. He has loved and lost the world. There has been a profound identity shift, but he has not found his true self till the end. So Zubar is outlining the skeleton of the cycle of identity that Changez goes through, that my paper further details and outlines. Changez begins by searching for his identity in America, with the American dream, trying to come to terms with that happening, trying to make it come to fruition. And when he is forced to choose between America and Pakistan, he reconnects with his Pakistani side, which shifts his whole identity, and so much to the point where he becomes anti-American. And that is his true self in the end. He's found that he is anti-American, and he has realigned with his Pakistani side. So I find that identity is really the theme that's in relation with the social justice themes. That's the larger theme within the class, is identity, that my paper really talks about and further outlines about how one is destructed and recreated. In class, we discuss identity and how it is formed through your situation and through the difficult decisions one makes during their lifetime. Identity is also important because it is who we see ourselves as and what we know to be true within ourselves. And our identity is reinforced by our core beliefs that come from wherever we decide to be home, wherever we think is home. That's where our core beliefs come from. That's where our identity is from. And when we recognize those things, once again, the things that we hold true to ourselves and our core beliefs and who we are, where we are from, the people we know, that is what creates our identity. Thank you.